with what looks like the garage.
You will like this episode.
So I wonder if potentially we're going to actually begin the episode with the band. That's pretty exciting. All right. I am going to hit record. All right. We are now officially recording. And I'm going to go into the, what's up?
You got Instagram Live going?
Instagram Live is going, yeah. And I'm going into the episode inside the Remarkist app. So I'm ready to press the time code there. And of course, everybody knows the drill. We're going to all hit the play button on our remotes at the same time on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
This might be my favorite scene of season 3.
Just a wall. Just a full wall. Saw that coming.
Did I just see a cameraman hand in the reflection of the garage window? Yes. I think I just did. Wow.
Shoot, I didn't even see that. Nice.
Let's all stop and rewind. Also, who would steal things out of their driveway? She could have just left them in the driveway. That bit would notice and freak out.
Careful with your with the audio on your television. We don't want to hear that in the background.
My sister actually bought me a pillow at Target that is shaped like a globe because of the scene. So the Huggle World showed up in like the end of season 1 or beginning of season 2, and it looked brand new, and it was on their couch. I remember that. That was like sitting on her couch. It's aged a lot.
I don't remember that.
I didn't point it out till the after show because it would have been a spoiler. Yeah, there was a full-on cameraman hand in the right garage window.
In the reflection of the
yeah
of the window.
Totally. It was like someone's like right arm or something. Or like somebody gesturing, like they were like, come on, or something. They're like they were moving their hands. It's whoever was stalking them outside of the window at the end of last night's episode. That was probably Max Benita. At one point, Rory is supposed to be driving a car away, and if you look as she's pulling out of the driveway, it's definitely like a transport guy's hairy arm with a gold watch. It's hilarious. Oh my gosh, are you serious? Yeah, it's somewhere in season 6. I know what you're talking about.
Biff Yeager.
I love that Taylor's wearing a full-on tool belt as if he's doing construction. Taylor is the ultimate micromanager.
That's what I was thinking. He'll get in there if he can.
He's wearing it real, like up real high too. Taylor is nothing if not self-serving.
I love how the tool belt and all the tools are obviously brand new and never been used too.
His helmet is very shiny too.
Whoa.
Here we are. Look at it.
This is where Zach is creepy.
Yeah.
Big Matthew McConaughey vibes.
Oh, totally.
Like,
Oy,
realistically,
oy,
he
oy,
knows
oy.
that she's an adult, right?
Hey, there he is.
I have no recollection of him doing that. My gosh, I can't even. I have no memory of whatever we were doing there in the background. What in the world were we doing back there?
Were you supposed to be in high school too?
I don't think. Are we supposed to be in high school? I feel like we're just out of high school.
I feel like you're all supposed to be around like 17, 18, right?
Yeah, or like 19-year-olds just out of high school.
Yeah, I kind of imagine that we were somewhere around like between 19 and 21.
They're y'all are putting up the soundproofing, just to answer your question. Putting up carpet on the walls to absorb the sound.
Correct.
Yeah, and I was going to ask if you remember if they gave you an actual staple gun to be doing that, but it sounds like you might not remember.
Look at that.
Don't remember, but if I had to guess, we weren't. I didn't have any. I wasn't actually stapling anything.
Oh wow, I thought that hat was a headband, like a bright red headband at first.
Hillary, your sound's on.
Both of their hair is on point. BT dubs.
I didn't know why.
Brian's constant like face is just hilarious.
I do remember doing that.
That's a lot of
Billy
coffee.
Bart.
Coffee taste?
Charlie Swan.
It costs $11,000 a month to stock coffee for a coffee shop.
I don't believe that.
How do they tell the difference between all the little cups? Are they marked on the bottom?
They probably just were getting a specific flavor at a time.
Can you see Lorelai fishing?
No.
Being polite will really kill you. Lorelai learned that one.
I really love Lane's sweater. Like I would buy that and wear that.
Oh, and her hat's so cute.
Her hat's so cute.
Oh, is Shane still working here?
I think Shane has disappeared from town.
That's too bad.
You'll see.
She's not needed for the story anymore.
Of course it's yours.
Rory humiliated Shane and she had to move.
It's just funny that Kirk took her job.
This is actually Kirk's best job, in my opinion.
I don't know. I like his monologue about the relationship between the video store and the video store rental card. It's a solid one.
There is a list somewhere of Kirk's jobs ranked, and this ranks pretty highly on the list.
I feel like he's had this job more than once, too.
I think this is the first time in the series he has it, but he comes back later.
I'm just wondering what all they bought in that small bag that was $40.
Makeup's expensive, yo.
It could have been one item.
I know, but like, ugh, yikes.
I got an eye infection once and had to replace my eye makeup. It was $75.
And that's why I don't wear it.
I would so have this cake that Sookie's making.
It has such a big base layer that's so wide.
It's throwing me off.
How would you get that in the oven? It'd have to be in sections.
It is slightly bothering my OCD that there's raspberry drippings on the white icing.
I would think I'd say the same.
Where's Francie? That's the bigger question.
The same planet as Shane.
Really?
No, I don't know. I don't remember.
I love their take on it. Be like, we don't need to switch anything. We'll be fine.
Is this a Luke love interest?
Yuck.
Yes.
Wait, why yuck?
Just, Gary is not a fan of Nicole. You will see, and you will understand in due time.
So far, I'm liking Nicole a lot.
What, her haircut?
There's clearly something that's coming that has often so much negativity towards Nicole because she seems perfectly fine.
I think that's why we were all really quiet. Robert is still working at Luke's. He's working hard today.
Always is.
Sherry, I just PM'd you a video where the actress talks about playing Nicole and how she hated it.
Awesome.
No spoilers. I love Nicole. She's wonderful.
Also take into account you love Dean and other people don't, so it doesn't necessarily like
There's a lot of
You know.
turtlenecks in this episode.
I'm just saying everyone has opinions, so it doesn't
There are a
necessarily
lot of
mean anything.
turtlenecks.
Rory is eating vegetables. That's kind of rare.
Well, they don't have scurvy, so they have to eat vegetables every once in a while.
Does she not want to tell him about Alex?
Oh, of course he offers help.
I have to be honest, I'm gonna miss Headmaster Charleston. I'm already just sort of like collecting all of the folks here at Chilton that I'm gonna really miss.
So when one door closes,
I love that his desk plate says Headmaster and not Headmaster Charleston. It's not even personalized. That was a major dressing down.
Lies.
I know. I wish they would make up.
That camera move, that very slow push in that they did there, that's something that you rarely see on the show. I just thought that was interesting. Gives us a little insight into Paris's state of mind.
There are now fish in it.
This is one of my favorite scenes of the episode. This would 100% be me. I would bond with the fish and I wouldn't be able to fish.
How are those fish able to, I mean, isn't it cold?
I know. I think they would freeze.
I would think that those fish would be probably dead pretty soon.
I mean, they came out of
Well, I
a
guess
bucket,
not. I guess
so the water
fish
was
survive.
probably.
I guess fish sort of survive in frozen lakes, don't they?
They're pretty.
Oh, they don't?
They go
Oh,
down deep.
They don't.
They go down
Okay.
deep
Yeah,
and
but they go down deep.
then they like sleep. Don't they kind of like hibernate sort of?
Right. They don't go to the surface.
Oh, people fish during ice. They fish,
But they're really deep. They're like
Uh-huh.
at the bottom.
I mean, ice fishing is a real thing, yeah.
I love her outfit.
I just looked it up.
That pool is going to pop. That pool is going to pop. There's no way. There's no way they don't do that gag.
cork on it.
Yeah, that's why they got the cork.
Oh, they have corks on it. This is a cute scene.
I love that he did that for her.
So sweet.
I love that he can list two people, and that's the end of her friends list that he knows.
I thought that too.
That look breaks my heart.
I can't. It's so terrible. Poor Luke. He's dating somebody else again.
But like, it shows how much he cares because he actually listened to her, even though it was going to make him sad. He engaged with her.
Well, the coffee thing, that had to hurt also. Because, I mean, coffee is such an important part of their relationship.
Yeah, that's kind of their thing.
And the Lala's coming in to let us all know.
Where would we be without the Lalas?
Given
told my
Lorelai's
kids-
past choice in alarm clocks, that was a wise move.
I've actually had my kids wake me up because it works better than an alarm clock.
Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah, Babsy's woken me up a few times instead of my alarm clock.
I have to wake my husband up for his alarm. I wake easier than he does.
No, I'm the rock.
He's like, thank you.
That is a true Asian mom.
Oh, that bow.
I want to know where they put all the furniture when they host these events. It looks so empty.
I saw a chair right there
Thing.
hanging from the ceiling, so who knows?
I love
Ah.
Rory.
There's the reference, Rachel.
Yes, they were my favorite band for so long.
Because Rory and Lane's last double date ended so well. I feel like if one spouse attacks with a carrot peeler, maybe y'all should consider a different life choice.
Nah.
There's no escape. There's no escape.
I love that we see Jess helping out in the diner more often now.
Oh, is it? All right. Is Nicole just leading him on as part of the negotiation thing with Taylor?
No comment.
No,
I love how
comment,
Taylor's tool
because
belt is up
you're
over
gonna
his
want that.
belly. I think that's hilarious.
Watching.
So he's clearly interested in her.
Is this his version of flirting?
Yes, I love it. I'm here for it. This is how I flirt. And I honestly think he just went out there because of the talk with Lorelai. So,
Yeah, definitely.
Sure. Yeah. Growl.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Same.
Yikes.
Oh, how I wish coffee was only 75 cents these days.
I know, even tall plain coffee at Starbucks will run you like $1.75.
So far, so good.
Oh, he's happy for Uncle Luke.
I think that this is what Dave Rogalski, the real Dave Rogalski, was telling us was sort of inspired. Like this scene was what was inspired by him actually doing something like this for Helen Pye and her family because it was at a church.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think, like, why did they get married at the house and not a church? I guess
I do remember that there is a church wedding in this.
Yeah, but theoretically, if they're very religious, I don't know about like Seventh-day Adventists, but I know that in the Catholic Church, you really like have to get married in a church unless you have special dispensation. So I'm wondering if that's just kind of a plot oversight.
Or maybe because they didn't have Reverend Skinner do it, they couldn't use the church. Lane's plans always backfire.
I know.
Kablooey.
Poor Dean.
No. Those look more like funeral flowers in the background than a wedding.
Oh, they do.
Poor Dave.
Those pants he's wearing look really big.
Poor Dave and Lane.
My husband's suit when we first met was about that big on him. I've since bought him a nicer suit. Fun fact, I think this is the only time we see the Gilmore's bathtub.
Nope.
Yeah, we see it again.
I looked it up and trout can live 20 years.
Oh my gosh, in a bathtub though? I don't know, in a bathtub.
Not in a bathtub, no.
No, this is really irresponsible.
All right. Let's open up this couch and get some other folks up here to chat about this episode.
I'll bite my lip. Keep quiet, I promise.
Yeah, we just can't talk about it yet.
Yeah, I mean,
Let him
you
like
know,
her for as long as he wants.
I get
Let
it.
him
I
make
get
his
it.
own decision.
Of course, but you know, I mean, let's be totally honest. When you first watched the series, did you hate her at this point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You hated her at this,
No,
at this point. You hated her.
There's
Oh, come
nothing
on.
to dislike her
I
right
did.
now.
Anybody that's not Lorelai is hated.
Are we hating
I
people?
100% from the get-go wanted Luke with Lorelai. So I didn't
Oh,
like anybody.
She
Sure,
was
but
a
like,
date with somebody else right in this
Okay.
episode.
Okay.
Fair.
So so is that it? Is that like, so do we?
For me, yes.
So if
I
like
can't
if a
really
character is-
explain anymore.
So if wait no. So if a
At
character
this point, I liked her.
So if a character is in the way, if there's another character who's in the way of the love interest or the love affair that you're rooting for, then it's safe to say that that they're already on the outs with you the moment that they come onto the screen.
No,
For
let
me
me
personally,
No, I agree with that. I think she's very likable at first. I mean, she's got a great, very kind towards Blue. She's funny. I don't know.
She's trash talking her client. That's why I didn't like her.
Okay, so me and Charlie were talking about this because I bounced like Tigger, and I don't like her because she seems like, just like her, this, don't judge me, but like just the way, not the way she carries herself, because the way she carries herself is not bad. It's just like she seems very pretentious and very snooty, and I can't say much more because we haven't seen the rest of the season yet. But
Yeah, no,
I
I'm
don't like her.
actually asking to try your absolute best to remember how you felt about them without anything else that's to come. I know that that's a hard ask because, of course, there's so much that's going to be influenced by what is to come. But to try to remember how you felt about her when you first saw her, because I don't know, Chris. Like, I kind of get that, but I felt like the trash talking was really just teasing. I mean, if that's trash talking, we've trash talked.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
on Taylor. I mean, he's a goofy
But
character.
I didn't like her when I
But
first
she's
saw her
supposed to
anyway.
be
Wait, hold on. And then, but I guess I'm just saying, I feel like other than that, she seems perfectly charming. And I mean, yeah, I certainly want Lorelai to be with Luke, but like Lorelai's not with Luke. Like, she's like going out on dates with every other person. So at the very least, I want him to find some happiness. I just want him to find some happiness, even if it's in the interim between the time that he eventually hopefully does get with Lorelai.
Something like this feels hopeful to me.
Well, I get what you're saying, John, but I didn't like her because she's supposed to be Taylor's her client, and she's going in to have some papers signed. And even if she's just kind of joking, she's still trash talking her client to somebody she's doing business with. And I just didn't really like that. And I know it's supposed to be kind of cutesy and flirty and all that, but it's just the idea of a lawyer going in and being that way with somebody who they're doing business with just kind of rubs me the wrong way.
We have Hillary, Rachel, Shelley, and Stacy.
At this point, I did like Nicole. I think she's very smart. She's very quick. She can kind of pace match, match for match with Luke, with the banter. And as far as the trash talking is, I don't think she really said anything directly bad about Taylor. She just said that he loves things in triplicate and that he's a select client, and Luke was the one really trashing him.
She was making fun of him.
Yeah, I think that Lorelai brings in those books about fishing, which why didn't they do that at home? If she's going to bring books about fishing at Luke's, Luke is going to notice. He asks her, offers to help. She sidesteps of why she's really learning to help. He goes and puts that pool with the fish, brings his gear, does all that for her. She's still trying to sidestep why she's trying to fish. And then she finally tells him, it's like, well, you don't want to hear my personal life. And you could see the look on his face. She finally tells him that it's for a guy and it's their second date. And then, I think he's kind of looking around and being like, well, I'm waiting. And here's another guy that she's putting before me. And so I think then he looks at Nicole. She's attractive and she's there. And I don't know. I think it was just kind of like at this point, why wouldn't he go on a date and ask her out? Like,
yeah, and she's funny. I think she's funny.
And, I don't know, maybe I'm a lawyer, so I'm a little biased that I'm on her side, but I don't think she's really trash talking. I've heard trash talking. That's not really it. I think she was just trying to banter with him. She's trying to get him to sign the lease. You can call it unprofessional. I don't think it's trash talking. And I don't blame him. How long more is he going to wait for her? And at this point, I don't know. I can see why he asked her out.
Yeah, I didn't really.
Do we have any folks who have been flashing their microphones? Just because it looks like.
Well, yeah. The order that I mentioned.
What was so Hillary, Rachel, and then who was next after?
Shelley and then Stacy.
Shelley, Stacy, great.
I don't know if you can hear me. Can I join the conversation?
Who is that?
That's Amanda. I'm new.
Yeah, absolutely, you can. What? So I should probably explain. So, after the episodes, we stick around for about 45 minutes and we just chat about what we just saw. The format is pretty loose, it's pretty casual. We try to keep it, as casual as it would be if we were just all sitting around in the room talking, which means that like if you can find an air in the conversation to respond to somebody, you can certainly take it. But if you feel like, it's sometimes a little difficult to squeeze your remarks in, we have another way that we sort of, it's our way of sort of subtly raising our hand to say like, I have something to say when you have a chance to hear. And that is we flash our mics. So we always try to keep our mics muted when we're not speaking.
Does that mean just pushing the button?
Yes, it means to push the button over and over. And when we're not speaking, we always try and keep our mics muted to reduce background noise. And then as we're waiting, we're waiting, to get our remark in, we'll just do this. Take a look at my avatar.
Okay, thank you. I feel like I'm 90 years old, but I appreciate it and will follow.
No problem. So we had a few folks that were flashing their mic, and then a few folks that also just found an opportunity to squeeze in a quick remark. I do that very often. But right now we have Shelley, and then after Shelley was Stacy and Amanda. If you want to chime in with something after that, we'd love to hear it.
Thank you. Mine's quick. I just wondered if it would be a conflict of interest for him to ask, like his
her client, you know, the person that she's having, is there any sort of conflict of interest with her, with him dating her? I don't really have like that much of an opinion.
I'm curious to know the answer on that.
I mean, I guess like her client has a lease with him. He's a tenant. It could be potentially. I mean, I wouldn't do it. I think it's kind of a gray area, and I would stay away from gray area, because your client's person who they're in a contract with. I don't know. I think it's. I don't know. I'm a fan of her at this point.
It works on television. It works in fiction.
Exactly. In TV land, no conflict of interest. In real life, gray area.
Stacey?
Stacey.
Yeah, I liked Rachel when she was in the show, so I don't think it was necessarily about a potential like love interest getting in the way of Luke and Lorelai. I think for me, I felt like the Nicole stuff felt very kind of I don't know, like sort of not necessarily rushed, but yeah, forced, exactly. Especially because it did seem like others sort of brought up that it was a result of Lorelai saying she was going out on this date, and so I just didn't really feel the chemistry with them.
Amanda?
It's hard to be unbiased knowing how the story unfolds, but also the history of Luke with his women. Typically, again, it's like I feel weird saying this to not ruin it for anybody, but he likes more creative women, and she's so type A, it's kind of hard to believe.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like me and Carly were actually talking about this. Like the reason, like John, I know you said that like we have to keep it to like where we are now and like things like that, but weirdly at 10 years old, this is weird, but at 10 years old when this aired, I actually didn't like Nicole to begin with. It's just like the way like vibes, I just didn't get good vibes off of her, and then like she just made that stick throughout her time, and obviously we can't say anymore because we're only 12 episodes in.
Do you remember why? What was it about her that
her vibes? Like
just
it's
the
not
vibe?
like her, yeah, it's like her personality. It's just like it doesn't seem, and I think like what I kind of chimed in was like forced, because we see that Lorelai was going on a date with Alex, who I love, by the way, and shockingly to be true, I would pick him over Luke, and I'll explain so much more why when that time comes. Because like Luke saw Lorelai getting ready for a date, he didn't want to seem like all sulky and broody like he normally is when she does that. So he probably thought to himself, okay, like I can't catch a break. She's going on a date with some other guy. Like I'm just gonna go on a date with a girl. And then like it just happens to be Taylor's lawyer, and she seemed cool and things like that. And they had like a little banter back and forth. And so he's like, okay, well, she seems cool. Maybe she'll say yes. And I don't think he was really thinking about it too much. And so, I mean, we can't say much more because, well, yeah, it'll play out. But I don't know. I just don't like Nicole. I would pick Rachel over Nicole in a heartbeat. Alex, I love. He's just super cool and would fit really well with Lorelai because, like, they both have kids and they both love coffee. He has just as much coffee obsession as she does, and they just like fit really well. And like, I don't know. That's just my whole thing. But
I have a question really quickly before we move on to and I see Mary, I see you flashing. I don't know if somebody else is flashing up above as well, but I would like to hear your take on this. But before I do, I want to just do a quick poll here. Flash your mics if you like Alex. Flash your mics if you don't like Alex. Interesting. Flash your mics if you. Oh no, I can't do that. I was going to say flash your mics.
Have an opinion?
I was gonna actually ask you to flash your mics about Nicole, but it's just so clear that there's something coming that that's gonna probably make me dislike her as well. and that it's very hard for folks who have already seen what's to come
we can't say why.
to be
and that's
super
why-
objective here. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Mary. What's going on?
I actually am completely neutral on Nicole. At this point, I know what people are talking about, but I don't really have any reason to not like her right now. But what I want to know is, like, I keep hearing multiple people say, "Oh, he only asked her out because Lorelai has a date." Is that a bad reason? Like, does that nullify his interest in her because she has a date?
I actually don't think that that's the case. Like, personally, I think that he actually is attracted to her.
And I agree, but I'm just saying, like, even if that was his motivation, why does that detract from the fact that he went and asked her out? Like, he still got to ask her out. Like, he's looking forward to his own romance, so he's looking for a romance. So let's go, you know?
Yeah, I agree. Diana.
I agree with Mary so much. Yeah, I think what Luke really needed was like a tiny push. And so he had two pushes. He had, he did this really sweet thing for his friend that he likes, and then found out there, like, oh, she has a date. Like, oh, okay, like this isn't the road that I thought I was on. Like, he doesn't really have any intentions either way of like making a move with Lorelai. And so, but then he's got Jess, and Jess is like teasing him and sort of cajoling him in like a nice way, in a good way, to like, just do it. She likes you, like she's into you. And I think those two things together, he's like, you know what? He even says, screw it. Like, and he he says that out loud. And so, I think he just needed a little push, because why the F not?
Yeah, I think that there's a difference between holding back from, sort of holding yourself off because you think that there might be a chance with somebody that you like much more, versus actually going ahead and doing that because of the fact that that person has decided to date somebody else. I just think that there's a slight distinction, but there is one there. I think that in any situation, he would find Nicole attractive and appealing. But if he thought he had a chance with Lorelai, he might just sort of ignore those feelings because he wants to be with Lorelai, and he thinks that might be the case. And I think
Sabrina's flashing.
and I just think that that's what's happening here. I don't think that happened, and then it's like, okay, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to go date myself. I'm going to date as well. Like, if Nicole hadn't come around, and no one else that he had found attractive, he wouldn't be asking anybody out on a date.
You had Sabrina, Shauna, then Shelley, and Hillary after that were flashing.
Sabrina?
Thanks. Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but I can kind of see, like, I think that it's great that Luke is going out on a date with Nicole. That's terrific. And he should, especially if Lorelai is dating. But I think that from the other perspective, I'm just imagining being the other person. Like, I don't want to give anything away about Nicole, but I just imagine like sort of being the like runner up almost. Like, I think that because of the nature of Luke and Lorelai's friendship, when you're really close to someone and you're very attracted to them, and it's clear that like you wanted to be with them, I think that's going to be obvious to anyone that you're dating. And I think that's part of the challenge. Like, yes, I think you can either like deal with it head on and like have that conversation and get over it. Like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and then move on. Or you're with them. But I think that you can't really do this whole thing where you're in a relationship with someone else and you still have this like deep friendship with someone who you're deeply attracted to, and it's unresolved. Like, I'm not saying men and women can't be friends, but or men and men, or women and women for that matter. It's just
Can you clarify who you're talking about here? Because you were mentioning a variety of different like
people, and I'm trying to grapple.
Oh,
Did you mean Lorelai is the person who is in a relationship with somebody but remains friends even though?
I'm saying like, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but this idea of like Luke possibly going to date this woman, even though he like is in love with Lorelai, or I guess that's the question. I don't know if it's clear if he understands that he's into Lorelai, or there's kind of this weird thing in the show where like they acknowledge that they're attracted to each other, but then they deny it. So I guess the question is like, I don't know, there are indicators that each of them knows that they want to be together, but they're not together. And I don't know where that comes from. But I guess speaking more broadly in terms of being a person, I think it's kind of irresponsible to not like deal with the fact that you have feelings for someone before dating someone else. If you're like really close friends with someone and you're attracted to them, I think you should either ask them out or like, you know, be honest about that if you're entering a relationship.
So you're saying Luke should ask Lorelai out before asking Nicole out?
I think if he has like, I don't know if that makes any sense, but I don't know. I don't know if I don't know how I feel about that. I just wanted to clarify if that's exactly what you meant. You know, I don't know. I just feel like it doesn't really drive. It's not something that sort of drives the plot of the show. Like obviously the show, it exists in such a way that like we're going to build up to things and it's going to be so exciting and these other relationships have to happen. But I guess I'm just imagining being that other person and feeling really bad, you know, like knowing that you're kind of the runner up. Like that would just make me feel really bad.
I think that if Lorelai doesn't want to be with him, and he has every reason to believe that she doesn't, then he deserves to try and find it somewhere else. I think that's what he's doing.
True.
I really do think that that's what he's doing, and I think that he could. I mean, again, I haven't seen anything else, so I don't know, and this might like make everybody vomit me saying it, but like I think he could find love with Nicole. You know, like I think, like at least what I'm seeing here, like I think. Like I know, I got it.
Yeah, no, I think it's hard to like say what Luke should do given like you haven't seen the show, so we don't want to spoil you, and we have this whole overview, but we're not the characters. I guess
I'm just speaking sort of broadly about a person here. Like, he's in love with her. She in his perception, she doesn't want to be with him because she's had plenty of opportunity to show him that she wants to, and she keeps telling him essentially that I just want to be friends. And so just that broad idea, a person's in that situation, they meet somebody else. I think that they, you know, even if they still have feelings for them, they can find love somewhere else, and they deserve to try and find it. I think that's how I feel about it. Who was after? I remember it was.
Hey, sorry to interrupt. Just I'm leaving a little early tonight, guys, but I will see you tomorrow.
Night, Lily.
Bye, Lily.
Good night, Lily.
Good night, Lily.
John, it was Shauna, Shelley, then Hillary, and then Sherry was flashing after Hillary had.
Shauna.
Yes, hold on. Sorry. I was in the kitchen getting fries. I had you guys on here, but now I've got my hands full. So anyways, yeah, I agree completely with everything everybody said, that Lorelai, like, you know, essentially, you know, without even really saying it, she's like put Luke on a back burner, you know, like, and like giving him that vibe of just don't do anything, don't say anything, don't ask me out, don't do nothing. You know what I mean? And so, yeah. And Luke has every right to try to figure out how to move on. So, and like you said, John, if he wouldn't have seen or met Nicole, he would probably not ask anybody else out.
Unless he found somebody that was equally charming and attractive, that, you know, that came into the diner and flirted with him the way that she did, then maybe he would want to ask them out.
Right. Good conversation night, by the way.
Yeah, it's fun. It was Shauna and then Shelly.
I don't know. I've kind of lost my train of thought, but there was a couple of things. I think Diana covered the Jess idea. I think that Jess was probably a big influence for his decision to kind of get him the courage to ask her out. And also, like, he was in just a couple episodes that he kind of told him that that, you know, I don't even think he mentioned Lorelai, but when he was arguing about Shane and stuff, that, you know, he's doing all this stuff for her and not getting any sort of reward out of it. So I wonder how much that's been in the back of his mind. And then, yeah, like I also think, like, oh, he's an outdoorsy guy, and the fishing thing, maybe he was like, oh, she's interested in fishing now. Maybe this is like my opportunity to, like, I don't know. That was probably my main point was the Jess thing. But carry on. Also, what I wanted to point out, somebody was saying, like, Luke got a couple of pushes. I think the first push was actually from Lorelai herself, way back in season 2, when she's lecturing him about getting an apartment, and how all women say never date a guy with a single bed because he's not open to commitment. And so she says, come on, take a chance, like, just let the possibility of something happen. And he's like, oh, okay. Whether or not he's thinking about her at that point is up for grabs, but she is the first person who suggested it and told him to get a better bed and a bigger apartment. It's all you, Sherry.
Actually, it's all my husband, because it was his comment. Do you want to say it, or do you want me to? Okay, Donnie.
I want him to say it. I
I don't even remember what else.
He said that they can't admit that they actually like each other.
Luke and Lorelai?
No, but they like each other.
Yes.
Can I just speak from being from a small town? I don't want to be taking over this, but I come from a very small town, and I owned a business downtown for 8 years where I was very much part of this kind of, I literally made jokes about, this is the closest you get to Stars Hollow as you can get. And there's such a thing where business owners have such respect for each other and their life commitments to opening these businesses, where you really can't put your feelings or your vulnerabilities out there because you're all trying to have that, you know, successful business. And so I think that is, to me, the driving force of why doesn't Luke come forth, or Lorelai, because even though she doesn't own the inn at this point, it's a matter of becoming, you know, a problem for the business. And in a small town, literally options are small. And so I just kind of didn't hear many people talking about this, and I thought that should be something that should be brought up.
Wow. So you're saying that
Hey,
I'm asking from just so you're saying that in the small town that you are from, that business owners would be reluctant to date other business owners because of, correct me if I'm interpreting this wrong, but because of competition between them, or
not necessarily competition, but just the fact that you could possibly harm another person.
oh, you could harm another person and potentially their business.
Exactly. When I opened my business, I was 20 years old, and I had it for 8 years. And so, I mean, your 20s are such a diverse time to go through a whole lot of stuff. And I think that's maybe why I related to Lorelai so much, is she went from 0 to 100 real fast in times where people just were experimenting. And yeah, well, I mean, when you're owning your own business and you're handling employees and your people's livelihoods and dependents are on you, you can't just go with your feelings. You really do have to just be like, all right, well, shoot, I have to say no to this because this would impact X, Y, and Z. So I don't know. I think that's one thing that's really, I've
when I watch a show, I really relate to is that a lot of people wish Luke spoke up or wish Lorelai spoke up. And it's like, sometimes you just can't. You really have to just think about people and their paychecks, really.
I mean, at least at this point in the series, that tracks for me in terms of Luke. I mean, he's got a small diner business that I could see him worrying about that. That doesn't seem unreasonable to me.
Well, John, I just want to tell you, I may not be a fan of the character Nicole, but it doesn't mean I would care if she dates Luke or not. It's not because I want Luke and Lorelai together that I don't like characters. She just was a character I wasn't my initial reaction to her was like, ugh, another charming, witty woman who is kind of making fun of her clients, and I just didn't like that. So,
yeah, I get that. That's sort of how I felt about Rachel when, or not, I didn't feel that way about Rachel, but like when Rachel began, like when she entered the show, I just immediately just didn't. There was just something about her that just didn't feel right. So like I totally get that, like a character's just tone might just from the get-go, and you can't even really place exactly what it is about them. I get that. I just didn't feel that about Nicole personally.
And that's fair. We don't have to agree. Makes it more fun.
Oh yeah, of course.
Absolutely.
Should we talk about the band? No.
About Zach.
Zach hitting on
The
Lorelai.
one
He has a chance.
That was, I mean, first of all, it was just hilarious. I had no recollection of that scene at all, not at all. And of course, I mean, it was so small. It's funny because, first of all, I didn't have a single line in the episode, if you notice, not a one.
Actually, I think you said, Zach, are you going to help us do this or something? I think you said something from the garage to him.
Oh, really? Okay. Maybe I did. And so somebody, I think it was Lily, said like, oh, the looks that you're doing. And I think that I was doing those looks because I was like, I gotta do something here. I'm not doing anything in this episode except like bringing in equipment in there. And then I feel like I started doing those looks throughout at least more of this season. Is that correct? Like does Brian do a lot of looks like that?
Yes.
Well, is there a glasses look that as a glasses wearer, you scrunch your nose when you're trying to make a point on it, like unintentionally, because you're trying to push your glasses back up with your nose?
I don't do that in real life, but I could. Do I do that in the show?
I mean, I think I witnessed it not super hardcore, but you know what I'm talking about, where you.
I kind of know what you're talking about, but I'd have to see it to make sure that I'm imagining it correctly. Anyway, that
maybe you didn't want to put your hand in front of your face when you were on the show, so you were doing that without really thinking about it.
Maybe. Well, okay. So first of all, let's just dive right into creepy Zach. I mean,
that was creepy.
That is so funny because I don't think that that is not at all that character. Right? I mean, I don't remember Zach to be that ever throughout the series, or at least like not the Zach that I remember. So
he's a ladies' man. He just thinks he's a ladies' man. That's all.
Yeah, at the beginning he was kind of like that. He was kind of like, "Hey, baby," and with the groupies and stuff. He thought he was like, the huge rock stuff.
My memory of the Zach character was that he was very easily stressed out. That the character could pop a vein at any moment. Like he would just get really like frustrated with things easily and whatnot. And here it feels like he's kind of like Matthew McConaughey, which is not what I remember at all for the character.
Like literally, when you rewatch it, it's shocking.
I don't necessarily think that that's his performance. That feels to me like that's what they wrote in the script, that they wrote for him, that character, to be kind of Matthew McConaughey. And then maybe, I mean, again, I may be wrong. My memory might not be
might not be as sharp as I thought that it was, and maybe he is more like that throughout the series. But
well, you can't really deliver those lines any other way than the way that he said.
That's what I mean. Like, I feel like that's the writing. So I mean, he'd read that script and he would be like, okay, that's like they want me to pull out McConaughey, like which I'm sure that they got that sense from him in the room. You know, his long hair, he's got that, like, you know, he's from Texas. He's got a little bit of that going on. So,
you know, two things can be true at the same time.
They can be true at the same time, but I don't remember that character being like that ever throughout the series. So I wouldn't have thought that was the character until I just saw it now. I was like, oh, wow.
All right, John, I just rewound it to play that part of the scene again, and you definitely have lines, and you definitely have a staple gun.
Yeah, I mean, I might have had a staple gun, but I doubt that I actually had staples in it, and I was actually stapling anything. Well,
you just screamed you were out of staples.
Maybe, but of course, did you see me holding a piece of carpet and like lift it up? Because I guess if I was holding a piece of carpet, it wouldn't just like levitate there. I'd probably have to actually staple it into the wall.
You have your
not
hands
Harry Potter?
on the wall.
Yeah, wow. I mean, it's just funny. I like really just, I don't remember that scene at all. I do remember another scene. I guess that would be, you know, maybe one of the next ones where Zach makes a Creed reference, where he says Marshall Stack's got nothing on something, and that ends with me sitting on a stool playing, like, just doing a little bass riff. That's the only garage thing that I can remember. I'm guessing that's coming in an episode soon.
I have a question, because from my understanding from podcasts and stuff that I listen to, like, there wasn't room for improv, right? Like, writing was tight. You deliver the lines.
No, none. Like, not only was there no room for improv, it was really frowned upon. It was not like paraphrasing the dialogue was just not kosher at all. Like, and there, George Bell, who plays Professor Bell later in the series, he was the on-set what was called the dialogue coach. And that was his job. His job was, he was watching the script, the actual dialogue in the script, like a hawk. And if we missed even a the or an and or anything, the smallest word, you know, you saw George walking up to you, like, between takes, like you'd see him coming, you know, from halfway across the room.
That is shocking, because I have heard multiple podcasts talking about George, and it's just, to me, this mythical character. I did not realize that was the
George Bell. Yeah, Professor Bell. Yeah, well,
holy crap.
His name is George Bell in real life, and of course he plays Professor Bell. And he's an actor. He's an actor, a stage actor. That was just his, you know, his day job was he was the on-set dialogue coach, which worked very closely with the script supervisor. And they were like, his particular job was specific to the dialogue. He helped us with our lines. So, like, in between takes, like, you know, all of us would get together and he would work with us to make sure that we had our lines memorized, because, you know, we couldn't veer off at all. So because of that, and because there was no wiggle room, we needed to go into shooting with it just like to the letter memorized. So he would help us with that. And it's funny because Sean Gunn was just such a like hardcore preparer. Like, he just studied his scripts. He had those things like memorized to the T, which George Bell has been quoted as saying that Sean was the most impressive, like that, you know, that he really got it. And Sean would, like, if he got anything wrong, like even a tiny, like a an A or a the or any small like word, he'd know that he did. And he'd see George walking towards him, and he would just shout out, "I know it was the," and then George would just turn around and walk back to his seat.
I heard a fabulous story for those of you who listen to Scott Patterson's podcast. This past week, he had Ted Rooney, who played Maury, on, and they were talking about George Bell. And when he was talking to Shelley Cole last week as well. So apparently it was in the works to let George go after like season 4. And Scott Patterson claims that he went to Amy and Dan and pled the case for George to stay because he's like, we're not going to have the dialogue that we have without him. And so they're like, yeah, okay.
I heard that too. I mean, 100%.
So I thought that was a fascinating story, that his job was at risk and Scott went to bat for him.
So John, did you want to talk at all about the Dave and Lane stuff and the wedding and Mrs. Kim and all that?
Yeah, certainly. Well, where should we start?
Well, I think Lane's big prom thing backfired on her big plans to get Dave to take her to the prom.
You think? I mean, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that was actually kind of, it's interesting because, you know, that, like, as I mentioned before, and we heard him say it when he was here, when the real Dave Rogalski came and joined us a couple weeks back. That storyline, the Dave and Lane storyline, is largely based on the lives of Helen Pye, the producer, one of the producers of the show, and her husband, Dave Rogalski. And I'm curious if that was a thing, because I don't remember him saying that to us, that there was an issue of like him not being Korean. And if that was something that that the real Dave had to deal with, that was really kind of interesting and kind of, I mean, it was kind of intense actually there at the very end.
But did anyone actually believe that her plan would ever actually work out? Like that she would even be able to pull that on Mrs. Kim?
I think so. I mean, Mrs. Kim really likes Dave. She, you know, he's kind of won her over, and I think she was warming up to him. I don't think it's unreasonable for Lane to think that Mrs. Kim may have worked on her, because Lane looks gutted and shocked when Mrs. Kim just says he's not Korean. I mean, that never even seemed like that hasn't been a rule before, or maybe it's an unsaid rule. I don't know. I could see Lane.
Yeah, I think they've really been laying like the groundwork to try and make it happen. So I do think she is genuinely shocked.
Do you think that she's shocked because she didn't actually know that was an issue with her mother? Like when she says there, "You're not Korean," is that like, such an idiot? Of course I know that. Or was it, oh my gosh, I'm now dealing with that too?
I think it was kind of a little of both.
No, she absolutely. I mean, she's been set up with Henry. She's been set up with Koreans all throughout the show, and even with Henry, like you said, Mrs. Kim, when she finds out about Henry, she says, "And you're sure he was Korean?" So at that point, that was clearly important to her.
Yeah, but she probably thought that this is also a nice guy, and he brings a lot to the table, and so. I don't know. I don't think that Mrs. Kim ever said that she would have to only date Koreans. I get where you're saying, but I think Lane thought that Dave was offering enough that the fact that he's not Korean would be okay because he has other pros.
Yeah, I think
I agree.
Is it okay to ask about Mr. Kim, or do we have to just not? Is that a joke?
Oh, Mr. Kim, we've talked about it a few times already. I mean, I think that Mr. Kim is just such an unnecessary character to the narrative that they just didn't ever feel the need write him in any any significant way. I'll say this, Mary. I probably should have expected that her plan wasn't going to work, but I went on this one. I was along for the ride and actually really thought it was going to work, and then of course when it didn't, I was like, oh, of course, like it's a narrative. We need a reversal. We need something. But I think that it was written at least attempting to convince the audience that Lane was finally going to get it.
We
I
hope.
think there's been so much stress put on even by Lane, talking about how many like Korean guys her mother set her up with, or how like when she first saw Henry, she's like, of course, the one Korean guy has zoomed in on me, and of course my parents are gonna love him, and da da da. Like, I think Lane has an awareness in the back of her mind that her family wants her to end up with a Korean person. So I thought it was very naive for her to think she'd be able to pull that off. But
it's a bummer to think, though. I mean, like, I guess that's probably part of it. Like, I just don't want to think that Lane can't imagine that she can fall for anybody that's not Korean.
And maybe they want her to end up with somebody, but Rory says, oh, maybe your wedding will be next. And Lane's kind of like, oh no, don't scare me, or something like that. So I think in Lane's mind, like, maybe she'll end up with a Korean, maybe she won't. But that's so far. I think right now she just wants to go with her heart. And she didn't think like every boy that she would date would have to be Korean.
And I think too, because like her and Dave have such a good banter, and they're both so on board with, trying to fool the band members that they like each other, and, putting all these plans in place, that I think she's just gotten really excited. And so it just hasn't even fazed her, like, oh my gosh, he's not Korean. I think she's just really caught up in the moment.
Shauna and Kendra were flashing as well, just in case you want to hear what they say before you go.
Yeah, Kendra, why don't we start with you first, and then we'll move to Shauna.
I think that Lane knew that was absolutely her future, that she was expected to marry a Korean. But I think naively and hopefully she thought, they did work her mother a little bit, that if he was such a great guy, that her mother would make an exception. I had a Korean friend in college, and she didn't date anybody. She would develop these crushes on boys, and we would kind of goad her for it. Like, your mom's not here, she doesn't know, because it was very, made very clear to her that she was expected to marry a Korean boy. Like, that her parents would be very involved in picking this boy. And she had, her major. Her parents picked her major for her, and she excels at it, and she's really good at it. But she was from a very strict Asian family, and she never went against that, even though her parents weren't there, because what if they find out? So I think Lane knew, but she just thought, maybe my mom will make an exception. And sadly, she didn't.
Yeah. Shauna?
I just want to say that, yeah, I agree with that, with the whole, Ms. Kim, I was pretty surprised that, Lane wanted to go to the prom with Dave, and that look that she gave her in the kitchen, like, oh, really? And, and then Lane's like, yeah, that's what's going to happen. But I also want to say, on a side note, I told some guys last night before I left that I was going to have surgery tomorrow morning. I'm going to leave my thing on, and you guys can be free to dismiss me later if you feel like it. But I'm going to listen to you guys until I fall asleep because I'm kind of nervous. So if that's okay.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
Yeah,
I'm gonna-
Shauna, we'll make sure somebody closes the room out without leaving you in there all night alone.
Okay.
You don't want to pull a Nikki.
Well,
Nikki.
Is that what we're calling that now?
It's
Nikki?
so not cool to pull a Nikki.
I think it is.
I wasn't.
Hey, last night I fell asleep like at the end of the episode, and so I never even made it up on the couch because
Yeah, you were on the bean. I know. I noticed you were on the beanbags, and I was like, "Oh, he's pulling a Nikki on the beanbag."
Yep. That was the first on the beanbag.
Well, I
What were you
wasn't
gonna say?
coming in tonight, and then I was laying here and I was awake and I'm like, good grief, I'm not going to sleep. And so I just thought, well, I'll just go ahead and turn everything on and listen and watch with everybody, and maybe I'll fall asleep in between. And said, nope, here I am, about 3 hours away from having to wake up again.
Well, Shauna, you should try and get some rest because you want to be rested for the morning.
I hope your surgery goes well.
Good
Hope
luck.
your surgery goes
We're
well.
sending
Yes.
positive energy your
Yeah.
way.
Good luck.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys. And I'll be back tomorrow night. So,
We look forward
All right,
to seeing you after.
yes, thank you. All right, you guys go ahead and talk.
So I'm thinking like maybe I should reach out to George Bell and see if he wants to join us. It sounds like George Bell.
Yeah.
Sounds like he's somebody
For
that he's somebody that would be fun to hear from. Yeah, I mean, everyone loved George. He's just, I mean, and he's just one of the folks. I always say, you know, that like my years on that show, all of the memories that I have, most of them are with people who the fans never met, and a lot of them never even knew were there. You know, folks like that. I mean, now they are starting to, you know, through Fan Fest and whatnot. A lot of those folks are being brought into the fandom. But yeah, Valerie, George, some of the folks in makeup and hair, and it's really cool. He was he's just amazing and was just such an important part of that show. I don't really know much about that story that was that Scott had about him on set. I didn't know that, but I will say that like he was absolutely critical to the success of that show as it applies to the dialogue, because it wasn't that he was just like watching us and making sure that we were saying the lines right for the sake of the writers. Like that's what the writers wanted from him, but he was also just like helping us get there. You know, he was constantly like, you know, we showed up to set, and you know, one of the first people you'd see would be George walking up and saying like, do you want help? Do you guys want to rehearse? And so he gets a really major amount of credit for the speed of the dialogue on that show, and I guess a lot of the dialogue, because on other shows actors do have much more a free reign to just paraphrase or just like kind of tweak the line. Like, you know, very often writers will give them that leeway, especially in newer comedy, and drama, or specifically newer comedy, which has that sort of improvisational air to it anyway. Like, you know, stuff like The Office or Community, or, you know, the actors there are kind of used to bending the lines to fit their, you know, to fit what feels natural. And here we couldn't do that. And I think that gave the show a specific tone, dialogue specific tone, and he was critical to making sure that happened.
So, John, I mean, obviously, I think we all know that George himself is an actor, and he's a great actor. But, like, what specifically was his skill set that they thought, okay, that's the guy we need for our dialogue coach?
To be honest with you, I don't know. It's very possible that it was just that he just fell into the job. You know, like that he, as a working actor, trying to pay his bills, that, you know, in between auditions, he just started taking started taking jobs on set, which is, you know, is something that people do here. And, you know, you can work your way up in you know, as a crew member or in sort of crew, just like any other career. And you might start off as an assistant, and, you know, mostly what you're doing on set maybe is like getting coffee and doing that, and then you just sort of find your niche and move your way through. Whenever a new production's coming into town, like, you've got experience doing certain things, so it's likely that you'll get the job. So I could imagine that, like, by the time Gilmore Girls came around, he just had experience on set in the crew, in like script supervision or you know, or dialogue. But, you know, this is something that we could ask him, because I don't really know the answer to that question. I just, you know, I mean, there wasn't anything about his job that required him to be an actor. He just really mostly what he did was just read the script while we were shooting. Like, he was, you know, he's like reading along with us as we're doing our line, and marking in the script with a pen anytime we made a mistake, and then walking up to us and telling us what the mistake was. And then also, in addition to that, he was, I think, more out of just being helpful. I don't think he needed to even do this. He would just come up to us in between, you know, while they're changing the set or changing lighting, and ask if we want to, like, work on the next scene together. And that's not necessarily anything that, you know, what an actor would need to do. He just happened to be an actor. And they loved him so much that, like, you know, at a certain point, knowing that he's an actor, and knowing that he probably would have loved to, you know, to have a role in the show, and because he now becomes such a huge part of the Gilmore Girls family, they gave him that role. The same thing for Mara Casey, by the way. You know, Mara Casey was in the revival. She was a casting director. She didn't cast the revival, but she was cast in a role somewhere in there. I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
I was just going to be logging off because I have to wake up early tomorrow, so I was going to say goodnight. But also, there was a question I didn't get a chance to ask when we were talking, and I posted on the discussion page for this episode. I know Mary answered it, but I'd love to see what you guys think if you happen to get a chance to take a look at it. So, good night.
Night, Stacey.
Good night.
Good night,
Stacey.
I'm going to start making folks moderators, and I kind of just want to end on Alex. I like that guy.
Oh, you don't want to talk about Paris at all?
Oh, right. Yeah.
On Mary?
That was good.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can take it back.
No. I mean, it's good. It's a lot. Now I'm like, oh, no, that is a bigger discussion. I don't know. What are your thoughts on Paris? I mean, I feel like the whole thing in this episode, this whole thing with Paris was just felt like an extension of the last episode. So, is there anything specifically that you feel was new about all of that?
I didn't like what happened with Headmaster Chilton. I'm with Paris on her little side remark of course it's girls, so it has to be about boys that we're fighting. Like, I had a bit of problem with that scene.
But is he? Would you say that he's wrong? Like, that he's wrong in his assessment, because isn't it somewhat about a boy?
I don't know. The way he said it is that they were fighting over the boy, as if they
right.
wanted the boy.
Got
right?
it.
Like,
Got it. Yeah.
I think it was the assumption and the or just assuming that just really is hindering for women, children.
Well, if it would have been two boys, he might have said, "Is it a girl though?"
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that I just think that what I think that scene was, what he was saying in that scene is like, is it one of the many things that high schoolers are always fighting over? So I don't know if it was necessarily like a gender thing. I think it was more like, it's just, you're being like, you're better than that. You're the best of this school, and you're behaving like Madeline and Louise.
And also, they've fought over kind of like a boy before with the Tristan thing, or at least Paris was angry at her.
Diana, I thought I saw you flashing.
I had a few different. Thank you. I had a few different thoughts, but they kept like, this is a good conversation. But I think my final thought is, I think it's really interesting how when they leave the office, Rory is clearly embarrassed. Like, she's been, like, it's like, oh yeah, he pointed out all these like dumb things that we're doing, and we're better than this. And she looks at Paris and says like, well, that was embarrassing. And Paris isn't embarrassed. She's like, nope, I'm fine. And like, it's kind of like, oh, like, what, how did this affect her? Like, did it, like, is she that mad? Is she, I don't know. Like, I feel like I really liked what she said on her breath in the office, but of course, that's people about a boy, but everybody's points about it are really, really interesting and good. And made me think twice about it. Cause I do think if they were boys, he might have said, or are you fighting about a girl? But I think he's really underestimating that Paris is very focused on power and like, it's just who she is. So I don't know, like, I've sort of lost, even though last episode we really, it seemed very clear to me that she was so angry about the betrayal. For whatever reason, it feels like that I lost a little bit of like, what is Paris upset about? Like, like for whatever reason, this episode, I was a little unclear about that. All of a sudden, like, is she upset that the school knows about Jamie, or that Rory did that, or is it because of the power and losing power to France? Like, it just suddenly became just this general, like, I'm pissed. And I sort of lost what it was that she's specifically pissed about. Well, I think maybe she's a little pissed at herself because having a boyfriend is not something that she ever did before, because it would throw her off the track. And now she's been thrown off the track, for better or worse, because of Jamie, in a way, like inadvertently, right? So maybe she's just overall like pissed that things are not going the way she planned.
You know what it is? I just realized with you saying that, what my problem is with this particular part of the narrative, and why I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around all of the anger. And I thought that I got it in the last episode, because I really did think that it was about her betrayal, like Rory's betrayal. I'm having a hard time with the whole Paris in a relationship and how that affects her and all of that, because I haven't seen it. Like, we've seen that Jamie character like show up once, at the school, and then a small moment there when they were in Washington. But like, other than that, it's been like kind of just, we've just been hearing about him. And I guess for me, it's not enough for me to really get invested in this idea that Paris is in love for the first time, or is experiencing this for the first time. We see her like daydreaming, I'm like, I don't know. Is that just me?
No, it's not. I think Paris is different now. Like, she was going into this year with like very big plans. She nailed down one of them. She became class president, or student body president, right? So, now the next thing is Harvard. And now, like, all these things have fallen into place for her. But like, having a boyfriend has definitely thrown her off her game, like the daydreaming, canceling the meeting. Like, she's mad at herself for canceling that meeting. It allowed Francie to get in the way. And so now she's pissed because
Rory had something to do with it too, inadvertently also. And so now I think she's mad at herself for letting her guard down, letting a boy get in there, and then like all these other dominoes fell.
I guess I just would have liked to have seen the boy get in there a little bit more, other than like, you know,
Hey,
like
hey.
what's that?
Dirty John.
No. No, I mean, I would have liked to have seen that. We always see it sort of after. She's now daydreaming, and I have to sort of imagine